Hey everybody. So the last few days I kind of been laying low because I just wanted to take a break a little bit. Um, but now I'm back in it, and my Monday Q&A videos are usually some of my longest videos out there. But I apologize for this being late. I wasn't really feeling it. Wasn't really feeling it for the last few days. I just kind of wanted to relax a bit. Um, but I didn't want to put it off until next Monday and then do one giant Q&A for 2 weeks worth of questions. So, I will do the absolute best that I can to make each Monday Q&A on Monday. And I will take very very few um, instances where they fall later on in the week because I don't want to do that. I want to keep it exclusive to Monday. So if I ever miss a few Mondays, it's gonna be rare. I mean, so all right, I'm gonna jump right in. Answer your questions from last week. Tunis Zoo. What do you feel is the best league from each continent? CONCACAF, it's Liga MX. South America, I think it's the Brasileiro. Africa, I think, is the Tunisian league. Asia, I'm not very familiar with. I know the Saudi league is pretty good, but I know J League is also up there. The K League, also the Australian League. I'd say it's probably between the J League, the K League, and the Saudi League, but I'm not too familiar. Then again, the Chinese League has produced AFC Asian Club champions, so maybe the Chinese League deserves a shout, but they're still in development. So yeah, Oceania, it's the New Zealand's league. I mean, Auckland City FC is pretty much in almost every club World Cup, you know, nowadays. And then Europe, that's difficult. I think the EPL is the most well rounded league, the English Premier League. It's also one of the most arduous. Because other leagues like Bundesliga, La Liga, and Ligue 1, they're dominated by the top three or four teams. But the Premier League, you think of all the 20 teams in the EPL, at least 10 of them can beat each other on their day. So probably the Premier League is the best one in Europe. Uh, there's a lot of questions, and starting from this week, I'm not going to be able to answer every single question from the week because there's a lot, like a lot to dive into. But I will answer most. Eminent Knight, if Yugoslavia still existed. Oh, that's not a question. Olaf Schlump Banane, best World Cup match you've ever watched. Great question, Olaf. The best World Cup match I've ever watched, and going by your username, I'm guessing that you're German or maybe Austrian or something. It's actually the semifinal of the 2006 World Cup between Germany and Italy. Now, if you're German, I know that must be a painful memory, but quality end to end nonstop action, that to me is the best World Cup match I've ever seen. The Germany versus Italy semifinal of 2006. Thomas, what do you think about JFA firing Vahid Halilhodzic? I addressed it in my video where I talked about the fact that Japan did fire him, and I said that usually when it's this close to a World Cup, it's not a good thing. It doesn't bode well for team morale, but sometimes it has the opposite effect, and it really improves the mood of the camp of the team because they've lost a manager that they have didn't have confidence in. So it's different. But to do this, less than about 2 months before the start of the World Cup, it's a big risky move for Japan. Ali Ufi, do you have legs? I can only see the upper part of your body. No, I just float, man. Uh, Warsan, question. Do you think that Morocco would pass through Group B? I don't think they will, but I think they're going to get close. Rashid Tahiri. Do you think Albania can win their group in the UEFA Nations League and be promoted to Pot B? Well, let me take a look at their group. I'm going to pull it up here on my laptop. Albania UEFA Nations League. They're playing Scotland and Israel. Oh yeah, Albania can top that. They probably should. Oh, drop my pen. They probably should because Scotland, one of the weaker British Isle national teams, haven't been to a major tournament in a very long time. Israel used to have a really good national side, but I mean, didn't you play Israel in qualifying? I think you both beat each other 3-0 away from home. That's quite something. Yeah, Albania can definitely come through. I think you should be considered very slight favorites to top that and get to Pot B. Bob Mama, do you think it's possible for football to become the most popular sport in the US? I don't think it ever will, but I think it will become popular, very popular. Uh, God willing, in my lifetime. Tim F. Germany 2014 versus Germany 2018. Which one is better? I think the current German team has more depth to it. I mean, my goodness, when you can send a third string seaside to a major tournament like the Confederations Cup and still win it, that speaks to the talent pool that Germany has to select from. But I think I would take in a one-on-one match. I would take the 2014 team just because I think experience, and you have more veterans on that side like Philip Lahm, Per Mertesacker, um, Benedict Hovedes. I don't know if Hovedes still plays for you, but in a one-on-one, I would take the 2014 team. Though I do think you have more depth now than you did then. Sami Kiani, Egypt starting goalkeeper El Shinawi will miss the World Cup. Do you think? Yeah, I heard about that. Do you think El Hadari, with his 45 years, can step up? Yeah, I do. We have another goalkeeper, Mohammed El Shinawi, same last name, who has less amount of caps, less experience, but he's a decent keeper as well. Um, I really prefer we did have Ahmed there because he's probably our best keeper. El Hadari, I love what he's done for our team, but he has had better years. But you know what? I would be comfortable with El Hadari in the World Cup in 2018 because, number one, it's his first World Cup. He'll probably be inspired. He's always wanted to get to this stage. Always. And now he finally will. And also the African Cup of Nations last year. El Hadari put in a really clinical performance throughout the whole tournament. We didn't concede a single goal until the semifinals against Burkina Faso. I think El Hadari can pull off uh, a respectable performance for us in the World Cup, and it should be his last tournament. Also, Sami Kiani, the World Cup 2026 will be the first with 48 teams. CONMEBOL asks for 48 teams already in Qatar. Yep, I heard about that. A lot of you are really up to your knowledge. I like that. You do your own research. That's very good. Um, for 2022, do you think there's a realistic chance FIFA will increase the number of teams for 2022? I hope not. I think 2022 is too soon. I do favor an expansion eventually, but it should come at the earliest in 2026. Yeah, there's a big difference. Um, I don't think Qatar, the fact that they're compressing the World Cup down into 3 weeks, and the fact they're playing it in winter, and the fact they want to expand it in a country that's very tiny and needs all the stadiums to be built, I just think it's way too much. Uh, Specifically because the host nation, Qatar. So I think they should wait till 2026. Dipanjan Dutaroy, what is your opinion about 1998 World Cup final? Was there any conspiracy leading to the final match? Uh, I don't think so. I think that Ronaldo, his epilepsy, his seizure that he had, it was really unfortunate. I don't think there was any conspiracy. I mean, you look at that French team. It's one of the best they've ever had. Maybe you can compare it to the mid 1980s French team that had the likes of Michel Platini. But that squad, in addition to playing at home, was just stacked. I mean, they had Carambeau, uh, Zidane, uh, Deschamps, uh, Petit, Henri, a much younger Thierry Henry, Florent Malouda. I mean, these guys, they're one of the best World Cup champions ever, in my opinion. And look, they went on to win the European Championship in 2000. They became the very first, or I think second, national team ever to win two major trophies in a row with the Euros and the World Cup. Not in that order, but I don't think it was a conspiracy. No. Got any black ones? Also, what are your thoughts on the CONCACAF Champions League final? It's the best opportunity for an MLS team win it since ever, and we have Toronto FC going up against Chivas, and the first leg for that is actually tonight. Hopefully, I'll be able to watch that game. Also, got any black ones? Do you think Morocco can pass to the round of 16 alongside Spain and eliminate Portugal? Yeah, absolutely. I think Morocco can do. I think something exciting can happen in Group B for the World Cup. I don't think it's going to be an easy ride for Spain and Portugal. Dorian E, what do you think of Liga Mex? Well, it's the best league in CONCACAF by some considerable margin. Um, as far as its ability to compete with other international leagues, I think it's pretty much on par with most leagues in Asia. It's probably on par, maybe slightly behind the best of the best leagues in Africa. And of course, they can't really contend with the best leagues in Europe. But Liga Mex, there's a lot of quality coming through the domestic level for Mexico. Let's see. Montasir Zidi, what do you think of the FIFA Club World Cup with 32 teams organized every 4 years? Well, they would have to do it in a way where it doesn't interfere with the normal club calendar as well as international break. And I think that it would cause a lot of havoc with a lot of these European clubs and scheduling and everything, players. So it might not come to pass, but if it does, they would have to book it in a part of the year that will not be too intrusive to the flow of the regular club season across the world, not just in Europe. Connor Mullen, when will you do a full prediction video for the new Nations League? You're referring to the UEFA Nations League? Yeah, I'll make a prediction video for that. I'm debating whether or not to do it before the World Cup or after because it doesn't take place until September. So I might as well wait until August, September to do predictions for that because then that actual tournament will be looming on the horizon. Um, I can do early predictions for the UEFA Nations League if you want, but we'll see. And also from Connor Mullen, who will be relegated to the Premier League? The Premier League is essentially wrapped up already. I mean, Man City won the title over the weekend. The top four are pretty much solidified, and the bottom four or five pretty much are settled. It's Tyler, who can make their debut in Euro 2020. Pretty much any nation from League D, since we're guaranteed to have one country from League D of the UEFA Nations League qualify. So I think Macedonia, maybe Luxembourg, Lithuania, um, Georgia, Armenia. Can teams like the Czech Republic, Norway, and Finland return to their golden generations? Norway seemed to be on the up lately. They thrashed some teams recently in their international friendlies. They look to be improved a little bit. They almost qualified for Euro 2020, Euro 2016. Took a bit of a bump in World Cup qualifying, but you saw their final 2 or 3 matches in World Cup qualifying. Norway finished quite strongly. Um, Czech Republic don't look like they're going to return anytime soon. Same with Finland. Footy Lad MBAC, with the expansion of teams in mind, do you think it would be logical for Kazakhstan to switch back to AFC from UEFA for the 2026 World Cup qualifiers? They'd probably have an easier path, but I guess the question ultimately for Kazakhstan would be, do they want to get back to the tournament do they want to get to a major tournament as soon as they can, or do they want to pursue the longer term goal of getting better by playing against the best national teams in the world in UEFA? So that's a question for them to answer. It would be easier for them if they got back to AFC, but if their ultimate ambition is to improve and get better, they should stay in UEFA. Samuel Davidson, what is your ideal format for the 48 team expansion? Because as you mentioned before, you support the idea of it, but not FIFA's potential implementation. Good question. I'm going to make another video on that. I made a video several months ago on that. I'll make another video on it because it's too long to address in a Q&A. Newton Paul, thoughts on Alfonso Davies? Yeah, the kid has incredible speed. 16 years old, made his international debut for Canada at the 2017 CONCACAF Gold Cup. Really could have become one of the players of the tournament if Canada had gotten a little bit farther. I think they could have beaten Jamaica, but it was really a job well done for Canada just getting out of the group. But he's quite special. Let's see. JSM 95, do you think in our lifetime we will see an Asian, African, Oceania, or North American World Cup winner? If so, who do you think has the best chance? Well, I think from CONCACAF, the best chances in the future are Mexico and the United States. Um, from Africa, you think maybe like a Nigeria or, yeah, I'll say Nigeria. Oceania, New Zealand, but we don't know when that's going to happen. Um, Asia, I think Japan. I think Japan is going to be the strongest contender to make a case for that, but it's going to be a very long time, all across the board. Arturo Vasquez, what if Mexico tops their group? I assume you mean in the World Cup. Well, that'd be a great achievement because they will top the group ahead of the defending world champions and most likely be avoiding Brazil in the round of 16. So that would open up a path for Mexico to get to the quarterfinals and beyond, potentially. Mark Pacelli, what do you think about Zlatan's return to the Sweden national team? Do you think he should be on the squad of the tournament? I actually think no, because I think since Zlatan left, Sweden getting better was not a coincidence. Now, his contribution to the team from the early 2000s up until the time he left after Euro 2016 was, how do I say, it made Sweden set up their team around him for the most part. And I think that him his absence now, I don't think it is a coincidence that Sweden finally gets back to the World Cup right after he leaves. The dependency on Zlatan's forward prowess up front, I think, while helpful in those individual moments of brilliance from him in the great goals that he has scored for Sweden, um, but it's mostly been a harbinger and an albatross around Sweden's neck. I think Sweden is overall better off moving on from Zlatan. Which African team will flop at the World Cup? ELG Gaming YT. Well, I don't think I would consider it a surprise if any of the African teams did not advance, or any specific African team did not advance. But to potentially be a flop, I pray to God it's not Egypt. But it could be Egypt if we're not careful. Another team, in Africa that can flop at the World Cup, I think Nigeria is in a tough group, a really tough group. But I would not consider it a flop if they didn't advance. And then Senegal. I don't think Senegal will advance, but Blind Biker, with women's football becoming more competitive and teams becoming more stronger, do you think USA's women team will eventually fall down the rankings and not be top dogs? I think the U.S. women's national team will always be among the best teams in the world, but other sides are getting better. England is up there now. You see Japan, the first ever Asian women champions from 2011. You have other national teams that have gotten better, especially from Europe, like the Netherlands and Denmark, and to a smaller extent, teams like Spain and Switzerland in Europe, as far as women's football is concerned. Then also in Asia, you see China coming back into the fold. They were a big team back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Also from Asia, Thailand. And then Africa's still got a ways to go. From CONMEBOL, the Colombian women's team is pretty tough. Mexico's gotten better in CONCACAF, Costa Rica. So it'll be interesting to see where the narrative of women's football shifts somewhere down the line. The Donnie Soldier. Will you do live reactions to the World Cup games? I don't know if I'm going to do live reactions, but I will do immediate post match analysis and reactions. Because for live reactions, I don't know if my camera can take it. I don't know if my camera can take it. Saihati79 Roblox. Who do you think will win the Asian Cup? Excellent question. Well, Japan wins it every other time, don't they? But picking Japan is not an exciting option. I'm gonna go with Iran. For now, I'm gonna go with Iran. Goran, how many goals per game do you expect on this World Cup? Do you think it will be an efficient tournament? I think European World Cups tend to produce a smaller amount of goals, with the exception of France '98. I think it'll be an efficient tournament. I think it'll be exciting. Every World Cup is exciting. Every time when a World Cup rolls around, it's a good time. Uh, how many goals per game? I think we should hopefully at least see at least an average of two per game at the very least. Hopefully. Mehdi Wang, in your opinion, why is Morocco very overrated? I don't agree. I don't agree that they're overrated. I think they're the second best team in Africa on current form. I think they're the best defensive team in Africa. They have a brilliant manager who has success with African teams. They have a few players that are playing in Europe, like Benatia, who plays for Juventus. and they looked really good. They looked really solid in their recent friendlies. I don't think Morocco is overrated at all. Tanner Wilson, which soccer legend would you like to see a biography movie about? There's probably a few out there about Maradona, but I just haven't seen them. If you know of any specifically about Maradona, please share them with me because I haven't come across any. So I would like to see. I would also like to see one on Johan Cruyff and total football and his influence on Barcelona and the Netherlands national team as well. C4 goes boom. What do you believe Bayern needs to do to prepare for Real Madrid and defeat them? I think the number one thing they need to do is, in addition to carrying over the form in the Bundesliga into the UCL, they need to max out Lewandowski's capabilities to the full extent. Now, when you look at the Sevilla game, Bayern had opportunities, but for the most part, that match was a slugfest because Sevilla really approached the game with a not much to lose attitude. They were fouling left and right. But the whole performance from Bayern overall across the two legs against Sevilla was very disappointing because we could have lost that tie over 180 minutes. I think for the most part, Bayern will have to maintain the back line because I know in all four home games this season in the UCL, Bayern, we've only conceded one goal, which bodes well against a side like Real Madrid. The problem is Jerome Boateng, in my opinion, is sort of the weak link. I think a lot of the time he's either here or there. And when you play the first leg at home against a two-time defending champion like Real Madrid, we have to get a positive result there. We have to win it. We have to win the first leg, and then seek to grab one or two away goals at the Bernabeu. But I'm a little bit worried because Jerome Boateng, I feel like he is sort of on the downturn of his career, and I just look at the Bayern team right now from the last two or three games that they've played in the UCL. I just think we're lacking that little bit of we're not putting away our chances when they come, and that goes back to the whole problem in the final third of maxing out Lewis' full capabilities. I think that Heinkes has to sort of reassess how Bayern will approach the Real Madrid semifinal. And you have to also consider there's that whole element of revenge as well. Revenge from the quarterfinal of last year, which we should have gotten through. So that's a good question, and it's also not an easy question to answer. So I appreciate the concern because I'm worried too. Jonathan Duru, will Egypt have double-digit AFCON titles by the end of Salah's career? Oh man, I hope so. We have seven. We could have had eight last year. Probably should. Yeah, I think we can maybe win one or two African Cup of Nations with Salah, but the rest of the team needs to step it up. Seth Strandberg, who will win the EPL next year? Well, the three favorites right now, in my opinion, are City, but how often do you see EPL teams retain the title? So I think the two most likely options are Liverpool and United. But Tottenham can do something. It just depends. Oh, Burn Roddy, what's your opinion on Mito, Egyptian player? Uh, Mito Hossam and Mohamed Zidane generation. Mito was our best player, arguably, for about 10 years between 96 and 2006. The only problem that we had with Mito on the Egyptian national team was his ego. His ego really got in the way. He clashed heads a lot of the time with Hassan Shahata, the coach that brought us the three AFCON titles. So there was a little bit of a battle of personalities for that squad between the coaching staff and Mito himself. But on the field, he was very much a leader. So, I mean, he was a vital aspect of our team. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. But he he was a guy that's sort of hard to work with. 2, are they the best Egyptian players ever? I think Mito was probably our best all around player, but I also really like Abu Treka, and I also really liked Shauki. But as far as Hossam Hassan and Gamal Abdelhamid, they came before my time. They played way back then in the 90s. And I'd probably, that third question, I'd probably have to ask my dad about. But to answer your first two questions, yeah, Mito is one of the best we've ever had, if not the best, but his personality got in the way of progress sometimes. That's just a fact. Um, but the best Egyptian players ever. Give it a few more years, and maybe Mohamed Salah can become that. Kick. Would you still predict Brazil to win the World Cup if Brazil did not have Neymar? No, I wouldn't, but I would still pick them to get to the semifinals, and I still think they're capable of winning the World Cup without Neymar. You look at every position this Brazil team is in the moment. There's no major weakness that stands out. There really isn't. I don't think they would win it without Neymar, but they could. They really could. If They Who Must Not Be Named wins the World Cup, will you sing their national anthem for us? Yeah, I'll do it. I'll sing the Argentine national anthem if They Who Must Not Be Named, aka Messi plus 10 Homeless Guys, aka Clowns FC, uh, aka Shadowmen, if they win it, I'll sing. I'll sing the national anthem of Argentina. Let's see. Uh, MW Troll, how can Greece winning 2004 Euros be a bigger surprise than Denmark winning in 1992? Well, because it was a smaller tournament. I mean, Greece played in a tournament with 16 teams, including the host nation, a very good golden generation of Portuguese players that included the likes of Pauleta and Figo. Um, Also had Spain in their group. They also defeated the European and world champions, former world champions France, a really good Czech Republic golden generation as well. So it's more impressive than what Denmark did because of the fact that the road on the way to the final was larger, and because of the fact that that Denmark team, that Danish team, including the likes of Schmeichel and Michael Laudrup, they actually had players, world class players. This Greece team, they entered that World Cup as the 15th lowest team out of 16 teams. They were only better than Latvia, and they still went on and found a way to win it, which was incredible. So I think that's a bigger achievement than Denmark in 1992. So that's it for this week. I'll see you on Monday, God willing, for sure. Until then, have a good one. Much love and peace out. I'll make a reaction video later tonight. If I'm able to watch the first leg of the CONCACAF Champions League final, we'll see. Until then, have a good one. Much love. Peace out.